Good morning, fourth grade. Hopefully you guys are able to access this video. I made a video on Friday and it had no sound. So when I double checked it this morning, I realized there was no sound. So I am recreating the video really fast for you guys so that you at least have something to look at while you're making your Zentangles with an emphasis. So this is an example I did many years ago. And my emphasis is obviously my heart. So some kind of object you can see in the weekly planner. It doesn't have to be a heart. There can be any other emphasis that you want. And then, of course, everything going on around the heart is going to be done in black so that really your eye is drawn in to your object at first. And then you start noticing all of the little details around it. So kind of that contrast as well with the black and white in the background and then a bright colored shape or object in the front. So here's what I started creating with you guys on my last video with no sound. I kind of liked the example that I have on the weekly planner where it looks like there's a string that's looping in and out of these different layers and levels. So I started doing that, and I have been using my fine point Sharpie and my ultra fine point Sharpie. But you guys can use whatever materials it is that you have at home. If you do have a Sharpie though, maybe just the fine point and not the ultra fine point, what you can do is you can still make thick and thin lines just depending on how you drag your marker across. So if I stand it straight up, it's going to be a really skinny line. If I kind of lay it flat, it'll be a little bit thicker line. So I'll show you right here. Here's more of a thicker line, and then standing up tall. So you can get different varieties that way as well. So as far as the Zentangling, my emphasis is obviously my hot pink curved line going through it. My emphasis is going to be the, can you tell it's Monday morning, you guys? My emphasis is going to be the pink line going through. My Zentangle is where I'm going to kind of change up the different patterns and shapes and textures sort of behind it or around it. So you guys can do lines and combine lines with shapes. You could just do lines. It totally is up to you. Sometimes, like in this one, it's a little bit darker because I made the circles really close together. This shows a little bit more white because I made the lines farther apart. This is a little bit darker too because I made the lines together. So you're going to sort of change that feeling and the look depending on how close your lines are or how much black you have. And it doesn't have to be in straight sections. They can be kind of wavy too. I'm just having fun with this one. So if I wanted to make this one have a little bit more black showing than white, maybe I could do another layer or do some kind of pattern where I color in this sort of W shape I created every other one. Maybe I can do something like that down here. Maybe I'll kind of do a curved line. And you guys can see my lines are not perfect. I'm not even going to try to make them perfect. That's really not what this is about. It's just kind of having fun with lines and shapes and patterns and filling this space. I like how there's sort of a depth created here. There's movement, and when I say depth, I mean it looks like these lines are going behind this sort of W shape is almost what it looks like. So I could color in every other line, or I could just kind of make them scratchy. So make them look like they've got a little bit of texture. So I'm using my thick marker, but I'm barely touching the paper so that it kind of has this scratchy effect. Maybe it looks like wavy hair or something, I don't know. So you guys can come up with whatever kind of shape or line that you want to use as your emphasis point. And then what I like to do as far as ideas for what to do with the textures in the background, I like to kind of change directions. So maybe some of my lines are going to be vertical. Some of my lines are going to be horizontal. Maybe I add a different kind of line. So I do like a zigzag line. Here I've got a curvy line. You can also add in shapes. So if I wanted to add in some shapes over here, I could do that. The idea is to start simple, and just depending on how you create and how you overlap, and I could even, instead of just using triangles over here, I could add another layer. So I could color them in, and then when I say layer, I mean I could add another shape or line behind them. So if I wanted to come back in and start, because this is boring, just leaving it with just some triangles in a section, that's boring. I can do better than that. So keep that in mind when you guys are creating yours. It's okay to start with something simple. That's exactly how you do it, but don't leave it there. So if you start with circles, or if you start with hearts, or rectangles, squares, or triangles like me, think about, should I color them in? Maybe you could repeat the shape like inside of it, like a small, medium, large triangle, or color some of them in, or do some kind of pattern coloring them in. How can you sort of take it to the next level? So right now I've got these triangles that I'm coloring in, and maybe, like I said, you want to make it layered. Add these little lines or polka dots, or you could have had like one long continuous line behind it. But this part is already starting to look way more interesting than if I just would have left it. So keep this in mind as you guys are creating these. When you turn them into the media album, there's a really good chance, if you just keep it really, really simple, like only doing one shape and maybe not adding layers to it, there's a really good chance I might ask you to maybe add some details, add some more oomph to it. So again, these I could have just done straight lines, all of the same width, but instead I did thick, thin, and I really like closed in on some of those spaces and made them nice and tight. Here I could have just done the curved lines, but it looked kind of boring, so I added the texture in the middle of the curved lines. So again, here I started with polka dots, just your basic polka dots, but it looked boring. So I added more and more circles close together, and it almost has a pebble effect. So this almost looks like a brick pathway. So they're kind of taking on not only really interesting patterns, but almost textures too. Like I said, this could look like somebody's hair or the hair of a dog or something. So I am not finished. I need to keep going on this, but for the sake of not having this too long, I'm going to leave you with my two examples. You can pause here if you want. Your paper can be any shape that you want, any size that you want. You do not have to do a rectangle or a square. Use whatever supplies you guys have. I realize you're at home and you may not have the supplies that I have here. So if you've got the fine point or the ultrafine Sharpie, great. If you just have markers, do that too. If you have crayons or colored pencils, work with what you have, guys. And even if all that you have is a pencil, which I'm hoping most of you brought your supply boxes home from school, even if you're working with a pencil, find something in your house that you can add, even if it's a highlighter or something, like a red ballpoint pen, to add that emphasis. That's going to make a world of difference. So hopefully I get to see some of these really amazing pieces soon. Good luck, guys.